part of who we are as Americans, to step forward when people need our help, and this is one of those times. So thank you for the help you provided and for the help you're going to provide.
What about climate? That's what caused this monster storm.
The power of science is questioning. Almost every great scientific discovery in the history of mankind has started with a question. Why? How? Eventually, answers are found, observations are recorded, and evidence is extracted through rigorous testing. It's reviewed by scientific peers, and when an agreement is found, the next great scientific theory is cemented in our planet's history. But with every discovery comes a violent backlash, most often from religious establishments. As George Bernard Shaw once said, all great truths begin as blasphemies. Perhaps the largest scientific theory most debated in recent times is man-made climate change, global warming. The science behind climate change is sound. 97% of climatologists support the notion of global warming in part caused by man's actions. Global average temperature has risen 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit since the early 20th century. Glaciers are thinning. Sea levels are rising. Coral reefs are devastated. The oceans are becoming more acidic. The effects of global warming could be disastrous if climate change continues unchecked. In 1998, 10 years after the United Nations Environment Program and the World Meteorological Organization established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, ExxonMobil began funding groups to challenge the science behind climate change. One such group was the Global Climate Science Team, which wrote a national plan to do exactly that. The oil and gas industry realized it couldn't tell the American people directly that climate change wasn't scientifically accurate. The reduction of greenhouse gases directly affected their industry and their profit, so they began funneling money into special interest groups. ExxonMobil gave $1.6 million to the American Enterprise Institute, which bribed scientists with a $10,000 paycheck to oppose the IPCC's findings. It also donated money to the Heartland Institute and the Competitive Enterprise Institute, both conservative think tanks known for producing anti-global warming materials. Koch Industries contributed $2,168,801 in campaign donations to Republican candidates in 2012 alone. Yet this number pales in comparison to the amount spent by the super PAC they helped found in 2004, Americans for Prosperity. In 2012, AFP has spent $30,800,720 on attack ads to defeat President Barack Obama, making it the fifth largest spending super PAC. They, like ExxonMobil once did, also support CEI. In 2007, to preempt the release of Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, CEI released this advertisement.
There's something in these pictures you can't see. It's essential to life. We breathe it out. Plants breathe it in. It comes from animal life, the oceans, the earth, and the fuels we find in it. It's called carbon dioxide, CO2. The fuels that produce CO2 have freed us from a world of back-breaking labor, lighting up our lives, allowing us to create and move the things we need, the people we love. Now some politicians want to label carbon dioxide a pollutant. Imagine if they succeed. What would our lives be like then? Carbon dioxide. They call it pollution. We call it life.
CEI also wrote that reducing carbon dioxide emissions would, quote, result in the deaths of more people in the U.S. than global warming would, worldwide." End quote. The Heartland Institute ran a billboard ad featuring the Unabomber, only to be forced to suspend the campaign in 24 hours due to a massive withdrawal of donor funds. Because of this, the Heartland Institute was not able to hold its regular conferences denouncing global warming on its own, and relied directly on open funding from a coal company. The denial of science is rich in the Heartland Institute's history. They have previously worked with Philip Morris to claim the science against smoking's harms was not sound. Some of the same scientists hired as skeptics for that cause are the ones speaking at global warming skeptic conferences. Once this voice was made known to the public, conservative media outlets began covering global warming with skepticism, and often outright called it a hoax or a liberal agenda.
You know, folks, belief in man-made global warming is a lot like believing in Santa Claus. It's fun. It's fun to believe in it for a while when you're a kid, when you're a child, but it's a costly myth to continue believing in as you grow older. And it's certainly not the kind of thing any serious political candidate ought to believe in.
First, cap and trade. Cap and trade is the biggest socialist scam, totally discredited climate change industry and zero warming for over a decade. Zero warming for over a decade.
Global warming, and how's that going?
Well, talk about an inconvenient truth, Brian. New research shows global warming actually ended 16 years ago.
The conservative public, now shifting even further right with the rise of the Tea Party, fell for these lies easily. And soon enough, right-wing politicians, even those who once supported the idea of man-made climate change, began to deny it.
What is the Republican plan to deal with carbon emissions, which every major scientific organization has said is contributing to climate change?
George, the idea that carbon dioxide is a carcinogen that is harmful to our environment is almost comical. Every time we exhale carbon dioxide. Every cow in the world, when they do what they do, you've got more carbon dioxide. And so I think
so you don't
it's
believe
clear we've
greenhouse
had
gases
climate
are a
change over
problem
the
and are
last 100
creating
years.
climate change?
Listen, it's clear we've had change in our climate. The question is, how much does man have to do with it?
And with this, the misinformation campaign is complete. The oil and gas industry funds conservative think tanks and super PACs. These entities influence the right-wing media. Conservative voters learn this misinformation and believe it to be true. Finally, Republican politicians change their views or get voted out of office. This isn't speculation. It happened widely in the 2010 midterm election. This year, climate change has not been addressed in either presidential campaign. The future of mankind's life on Earth is directly affected by rising global temperatures. Either we can take action to ensure our health and safety in the coming future, or fall prey to deceptive tactics to increase profits of multinational corporations. This is not a laughing matter.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans. And to heal the planet. My promise is to help you and your family.